Welcome to Daily Overdose.
The sun doesn't shine every day. The storms will come. There are times when the nights will be long and dark and you will be alone. There will be times when the darkness seems to consume everything. But don't let it consume you.
We all fail. It's okay. What is not okay is that when you fail, you stay down. Whoever stays down is a loser. And winners will fail and get up. Fail and get up. Fail and get up. You always get up. That is a winner.
I can accept failure. Everyone fails at some point. I cannot accept not trying. It is your losses that will humble you. It is your losses that will give you a drive.
It doesn't matter about what happened yesterday. It doesn't matter what happens to you. The only thing matters, what are you going to do about it? As long as you're here, you have a chance to transcend yourself. You can decide that you're going to stand up to life. It's necessary you take responsibility for it. That you don't give up, that you don't take any objection or disappointment or defeats personally. So yes, I'm in charge here. I'm going to do something about this situation.
When you embark this journey, you must know that it's going to go down before it comes up. But when it comes up, it's going to go so much higher than you've ever been. Sacrificing today for tomorrow's betterment. But if you didn't know that, you didn't prepare for that, think something's wrong, maybe it's time to stop. No, it's time to move even further. You have to be equipped mentally to endure this process. Knowing what you're about to go into is step one. Knowing it's an uphill battle, but a winnable one and one that's achievable.
Only those who are willing to risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. I want to see how far I can go. I want to see what I can accomplish. I want to see what I can do, what I can be, what I can have. I want to see. I don't want to see what I think I can do. I don't want to see what I think is possible. I want to see what my life would look like if I didn't count the cost. Because if you count the cost and you see how much it costs, you might quit. So you got to go in knowing that I don't count the cost. I do as many push-ups as it takes, as many sit-ups as it takes, as many reps as it takes. I pay whatever the price is. You get to a point when you don't count it. You just do whatever it takes to get whatever you want.
So you got to consider before you start anything, what is a commitment level? If you commit to something, you don't stop until you win. Wake up in the morning, you rise and you grind. You join that health club, don't quit. You started that business, don't quit. Your mind has got to be steadfast. Your mind's got to be locked in, no matter what. Because we are champions, and we never quit.
The official definition of self-discipline is the ability to control one's feelings and overcome one's weaknesses. Also, it's the ability to pursue what one thinks is right, despite temptations to abandon it. See, the problem with you is you rarely exercise your self-discipline muscle. You just go with the flow. No backbone whatsoever. And that's perfectly fine until you start whining and complaining about your lack of success. Whining and complaining about your lack of progress. Whining and complaining that you're not gaining any momentum and you can't seem to get ahead in life.
You're wasting a bunch of percentage here. We have 80 more percent that we're not tapping into because in this other 80% is suffering, pain, failure, self-doubt, darkness, and then a whole bunch of light. But to get to this light, we gotta go through all of this. So a lot of us know that. I can get over here, but over here, man, this is much better because I gotta go through this journey that is not fun. This from 20 to 100%, this shit in between is not fun. So we decide to live over here. So everybody goes, how do you do that? You know exactly how to do it. You know exactly, it's not a magic trick. There's nothing I talk about that's a magic trick. It's all back down to a very primitive mindset of we just have to do. It's like breathing. Breathing becomes normal. Like we didn't know that we're doing it. That's how you have to live your life.
Truth of the matter is that you have a lot of potential as a child, but none of that is capable of manifesting itself as freedom before you become disciplined. And discipline is a matter of the imposition of order, and the order is necessary, especially for people who are hopeless and nihilistic.
And what does it mean? Well, it doesn't mean, geez, I hate getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning to get ready for work. That just means that you're not very disciplined, you know, or maybe that it might mean something deeper. But I'd start with lack of discipline before, you know, rearranging your whole life. Because you might say, well, I hate getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning no matter what I'm doing, and then it's not your job. I don't mean don't do difficult things. I mean, watch yourself, and if you see that you're doing things that make you hate yourself, then consider the cost of continuing. You know, if something's valuable, you'll make sacrifices to attain it. That discovery of sacrifice, I think that's what separates human. It's one of the primary factors separating human beings from animals. Because we discovered that we could let go of something we value in the present, and we would gain something we value even more in the future.
When that alarm clock goes off at 4 or 5 in the morning, your mind says no. You just say, this is what we do. It's what we do now. Because to get to where you want to go, the amount of pain involved, I'm not saying physical, I'm not saying you got to break yourself off. The amount of mental pain of how many times you're going to have to do something that you don't want to do to get to where you want to go. When I was 297 pounds and I was fat as hell trying to be a Navy SEAL, the scariest thing in the world to me, even to this day, was that could have been the rest of my life. I thought then I was trying hard. That's the scariest thing in the world. I thought then, 297 pounds, working for Ecolab, spraying for cockroaches, making $1,000 a month. I thought that was me at my 100% potential. Come to find out, a few years later, I wasn't anywhere near that. 106 pounds less, graduate Navy SEAL training, went on to do all these other things. Looking back on that was me trying hard. That's why people gotta understand what is in us. We have no idea until we start trying hard. And I mean really trying hard, when you're obsessed with, hey, this is my new norm. My new norm is that, wow, this isn't always fun. It's not always meant to be fun. And that's when you know you're trying hard.
As C.S. Lewis said, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. People look at their past to decide who they are. People look at their past to decide who they can be. But the problem is, oftentimes, people mistake difficulties, suffering, pain for being bad, being less than, being broken, and it erodes their sense of self-esteem. It erodes their sense of self-worth. But nothing could be more opposite from the truth, because in reality, no matter what you've gone through, no matter how hard it was, all of it was shaping you into the person that you can become. The hardships, the difficulties, the pain, the suffering, all of that makes you tougher. It is literally in the difficulties that you begin to find just how much you're capable of. It's in the suffering that you find out how resilient you are. It's in the pain that you can rise up and get tough. And all of that is going to serve you as you move forward, but you have to know how to frame it. You have to know how to think about it. You have to know that whatever you've been through, that all of it is an opportunity to learn. All of it is an opportunity to grow. All of it is an opportunity to get better, but you have to use it to shape yourself. You have to lean into it. You have to know that the pain and the suffering, all of it is serving you. But if you're telling yourself a story that diminishes you, if you're telling yourself a story that bad things have happened to me, or I've done bad things and that makes me a bad person, then none of it is going to help you. And you're always going to move backwards. And it's going to be this stress and this pressure that's pushing you backwards. Instead, if you can put it behind you, said it pushes you forward, it propels you to be more, then no matter what's happened to you, you can become something truly extraordinary. And as David Livingstone said, I'll go anywhere, provided it be forward.
You can't wait for somebody else to make your life better. You got to make your life better. You got to focus on you. Now, I'm not saying forget the rest of the people, but I'm telling you to get rid of the things that are not making you strong, that are not making you better, that are not making you efficient, that's not putting you in a better place, that's not giving you the strength that you need to keep living the life that you have been given. Don't you give up on life, because once your life is over, you can't come back. Leave your mark. Help someone. Lift someone up when they're down. Be the strength for others when they're weak. And maybe when you're at the weakest point in your life, someone will lift you up. Because we all struggle. No one is immune to it. So keep fighting forward. Don't give up.
The first level to success in life, listen to me, the very first level is you seeing it like it's clear to you. You know exactly what you want. You know exactly when you want it. You know exactly what it tastes like. You know what it looks like. You know what it smells like. Before you really blow up, and you get success, you literally have it in the palm of your hand without having it. You gotta know what it looks like, tastes like, feel like, because you don't, you're gonna compromise. And your problem is you're not intentional and deliberate. You wake up on Monday and you might be strong, but by Wednesday, are you hearing what I'm telling you? You're not intentional and deliberate. You are hoping that the best is going to happen to you, and the best never happens to you. You got to be intentional and deliberate, whether you're making money or not making money. You got to decide that you're going to do something, and you got to do it every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday. The problem with some of you in this room, you're not intentional and deliberate. You're a good person that just hopes the good stuff is going to happen to you. It has everything to do with what time you wake up. It has everything to do with how you eat. It has everything to do with how you work out, how you prepare. It has every single thing to do with how you think. And when you want it as bad as you want to breathe says, I'm willing to make any sacrifice. I'm willing to go through any pain. I'm willing to go through any suffering. I'm willing to go through whatever it takes. So when I get in there and it's me and him one-on-one, that I guarantee you at the end of it, I won't be the one that surrendered.
In order to have unbelievable choice and options in your life, in your pursuit of your dream, you must eliminate them. You must shrink your focus down to one thing, one business, one focus at one time, and master it and get great at it for an extended period of time. The irony of life is that the more you shrink your options in pursuit of your dream, the more it'll open them up in your life later. What are the things that are stealing your focus? Who are the people that are stealing your focus? And begin to eliminate these distractions. Get laser focused and obsessed on what you want. Be starving and hungry to get it. Be desperate to get it. The combination of desperation and hunger with laser focus over an extended period of time is the formula to be great at something.
And you've got to be so relentless, regardless of what comes down the pipe, that you're always looking for a way to get over, always looking for a way that you can break through, always looking for a way that you can win, always looking for a way that you can strike a telling blow.
But you got to understand, you can always get a little bit better. You can always excel a little bit more. You can always push it a little further. You can always climb a little bit higher.
You can always better your best. You can always go beyond anything that you have ever done. And so all you're looking for are new breakthroughs through practice and practice. You'll get better and better.
And when you know what you want, you will do anything it takes to get it.
A person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thoughts. So, he loses touch with reality and lives in a world of illusions. We are so tied up in our minds that we've lost our senses. Time to wake up. What is reality? It isn't material, that's just an idea. Reality is this.
Whoever it is that you want to be, no matter how many times you may have failed at attempting to become that person leading up to this point, you can still become that person. You're going to decide who that is. You're going to hold that ideal in your mind, and you're going to force yourself to act in accordance. You are going to tell people what you're up to. And if you really have some balls, you're going to tell people that want you to fail. Because that, believe it or not, that's who's going to come to your rescue in your darkest hours of wanting to give up. It's going to be remembering that out there is someone who's laughing at you, who wants you to fail, that's talking behind your back about how you're never going to achieve it, and then imagine how rad it will be when you actually do achieve it.
And so I've been intrigued with, can you be committed to the process of what you do without being emotionally attached to the result of what you do? Because a lot of people can be committed to the process of what they do if the results don't change. But the moment the result or the outcome changes of what they're chasing, they shut it down or they quit simply because the result changed. So can we be committed to the process of what we do, but not emotionally to the result of what we do, understanding every day I get up and give everything I got to everything I'm a part of simply because this is who I am. Like the only thing I need every day of my life is 86,400 seconds. That's it. Like I don't need some reward. Like I don't need, the only thing I need is breath in my body, and I'm flat out going to get it.
One of the things you have to understand about life is everything changes and everything ends. And that kind of sounds heavy on the front end, but it's a truth. If everything changes and everything ends, number one, it should make you appreciate what you have right now. And then my view is what's next is always better. If I make it so, it's my job to make it so. I think passion is the genesis of genius. If you got enough passion, you're going to find answers nobody else does. But most people run out of fuel, meaning they get tired, they get exhausted, they get burnt out, they get, the law of familiarity. They're around something so much they take it a little bit for granted. What I see as the one common denominator of people that are successful over a lifetime is the sustained hunger. Hunger is the number one factor.
That in order to move forward, you move forward by taking the next right step. You don't have to know all the steps to make, just what is the next right move.
I want to recommend that you take just 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, and devote this hour to exercising your mind. Pick 1 hour a day on which you can fairly regularly count. And during this hour every day, take a completely blank sheet of paper. At the top of the page, write your present primary goal, clearly, simply. Then, since our future depends upon the way in which we handle our work, write down as many ideas as you can for improving that which you now do. Try to think of 20 possible ways in which the activity that fills your day can be improved. You won't always get 20, but even one idea is good. Now remember 2 important points with regard to this. 1, this is not particularly easy, and 2, most of your ideas won't be any good. Now when I say it's not easy, I mean it's like starting any new habit. At first you'll find your mind a little reluctant to be hauled up and out of the old familiar rut. But as you think about your work and ways in which it might be improved, write down every idea that pops into your mind, no matter how absurd it might seem. Let me tell you what will happen. Some of your ideas will be good and worth testing. The most important thing this extra hour accomplishes, however, is that it deeply embeds your goal into your subconscious mind, starts the whole vital machinery working. And 20 ideas a day, if you can come up with that many, total 100 a week, even if you don't think on weekends. An hour a day, 5 days a week, totals 260 hours a year, and still leaves you 3,740 hours of free leisure time. Now this means you'll be thinking about your goal and ways of improving your performance, increasing your service, 6.5 full extra working weeks a year. 6.5 40-hour weeks devoted to thinking and planning. Can you see how easy it is to rise above the so-called competition? And will still leave you with 15 hours a day to spend as you please. Starting each day thinking, you'll find that your mind will continue to work all day long. You'll find that at odd moments, when you least expect it, really great ideas will begin to pop into your mind. And when they do, write them down as soon as you can. Just one great idea can completely revolutionize your work and, as a result, your life.
I'll bet that you want to be successful. In fact, I will also wager that you have spent a lot of times asking yourself the question, how can I be successful? What is success? How can I achieve the dreams that I have within myself? And I just want to begin this talk by congratulating you, because if those are questions you've asked, if those are thoughts that you have gone through your mind, I want you to know that you have probably within you a restlessness and a potential that says to me that you have not yet achieved your maximum success. You have not yet probably arrived to your greatest potential.
If when the alarm clock goes off in the morning and you ain't happy about it, you ain't doing what you want to do. If your job makes you sick to go to, if you're unhappy with waking up to go to where you gotta go, it's because you ain't living in your gift. What burns in your heart is important for you to pay attention to, because it never goes away. That's why people wake up in a rut. See, you hate waking up because you waking up and you don't know the reason. You waking up and you don't have no design in mind. Once you live in your purpose, when you discover your gift, you can't wait to wake up. Please understand, pay very close attention to the thing that makes you happy. All of you are gifted at something. The problem is, you keep wanting your gift to be what somebody else's gift is. Identify your own gift, because you already have it.
You have something that you brought to the universe, and that if you decide that my life deserves my developing this what I do well, and becoming the best at it, and mastering myself, and seeing what I have within me.
You need to be present. You need to live in the present moment. Give your fullest attention, your best effort to each present moment. Giving your full attention and very best action in each moment will lead to each next best moment. It will lead to expansion and growth in your life, which will ultimately lead you to many things you love doing. And soon you will understand what your purpose really is. But don't rush it. Don't stress over it. No purpose is coming through stress. No purpose is rushing through because you're anxious. Do your thing and do it to the best of your ability in every moment, no matter what it is.
I just want to know if you're willing to bust your ass to change your life. And if you are, you're going to get an interview. And I'm not going to ask for your resume. I don't care about your resume. Your resume tells me where you've been. It doesn't tell me the price you're willing to pay to become somebody new. Every belief that you have is a choice. I choose to believe that human potential is nearly limitless. And this was the belief that changed my life. Because once I realized, so it's not about who you are today. It's about who you want to become and the price you're willing to pay to get there. And I promise you, the day that you're willing to pay any price, you'll achieve what you want to achieve. If you truly believe that human potential is limitless, what do you want to become? And what price are you willing to pay to get there?
Somebody talks about good health and you're stirred. Right. You need to get a book on nutrition. Get the book before the idea passes and before the emotion gets cold. Go for the book. Start the library. Start the process. Fall on the floor. Do some push-ups. Action. Got to take action. Otherwise, the wisdom is wasted. Otherwise, the emotion soon passes. Unless you put it into a disciplined activity. Capture it. Disciplines is called how to capture the emotion and how to capture the wisdom and translate it into equity. Disciplines. Now, here's what's important about disciplines. All disciplines affect each other. In fact, here's a good philosophical phrase. Everything affects everything. Nothing stands alone. Don't be naive in saying, well, this doesn't matter. I'm telling you, everything matters. There are some things that matter more than others, but there isn't anything that doesn't matter. We all pity the man who says, well, this is the only place I let down. Not true. Key to take home. Every letdown affects the rest of your performance. Every letdown affects the rest. This is part of the educational process on personal development. If you don't take the walk around the block, you probably won't do the apple a day. If you don't do the apple a day, you probably won't start building your library. If you don't build your library, you probably won't keep a journal, and you won't take pictures, and you won't do this, you won't do wise things with your money, won't do wise things with your time, won't do wise things with your possibilities and relationships, and the first thing you know, 6 years of that accumulated, and we say you have messed up. So the whole key to reversing that process now is to start picking up these disciplines. Now here's the positive side. Every new discipline affects the rest of your disciplines. Every new one affects the rest. That's why action is so important. The least action, the smallest action. Take it. Because when you start accomplishing and the value starts to return from that one action, it'll inspire you to do the next one and the next one and the next one. You start walking around the block, it'll inspire you to get an apple. Get an apple, it'll inspire you to get a book. Get a book, it'll inspire you to get a journal. Get a journal, it'll inspire you to grow, develop some skills. All disciplines affect each other. Every lack affects the rest. Every new affects the rest. The key is to diminish the lack and set up the new. And you've started a whole new life process.
Fear is so real. In fact, there are probably things that you're afraid of doing right now in your life, in your relationships, at work. And the fact that you're afraid, that's robbing you of all of the experiences that you want to have in your life. I mean, if you're afraid to fly, that's going to limit your ability to travel and see the world or go visit friends. If you're afraid of public speaking, that's going to really limit your ability to express yourself and share your ideas. If you're afraid of talking to your boss or asking for a raise, that directly impacts how much money you make. Or what if you are dreaming of starting a business, or you've already started a new business, but you're afraid to talk to people and you're afraid to share your business with people? I mean, fear is something that stops us all. Fear is real. You can't control the feelings that are going to rise up in your body when you're on a plane or when you're talking to your boss or when you see somebody that's attractive and you really want to go over and talk to that person. But you can always control what you think, and you can always make a decision about the actions you're going to take.
Decide what you want and then act as if you already had it. Decide what you want and act as if it was already yours. Now, the reason we can act thinking that it's already ours is because not only can we vision the end results, we can also vision the beginning of making it real. So we don't start till it's finished, but it is possible for human beings to finish something before they start. Human beings are the only life on earth that has this incredible capacity to change the course of your life. No other life form can do that. Every other life form except humans seems to operate simply by instinct in the genetic code. Human beings can alter the course of their life. Someone says, don't you have to do the second 6 years like you did the first 6 years? And jot this down. No. No, you don't have to live the second 6 years like the first 6. You can use all the information and all the advice and repairing all of your mistakes and adopting a new and refined philosophy so that the next 6 years can be totally different than the last 6. No other life form can do this. See, if you were a tree, you'd be stuck. As a tree, if you used up all the nourishment that was around you and you couldn't change location, see, you would die. But that's not true. Human beings can change location, go north, south, east, west, live here for a while, live somewhere else for a while. So that's a note to make. You can greatly alter the course of your life.
Hire on the basis of competence, using objective tests, and let the cards fall where they're going to. And don't be afraid to tell people that that's what you're doing. Watch your HR department carefully and make sure that they're not pushing diversity, inclusivity, and equity initiatives, that they're not requiring people to
take implicit association tests that hypothetically reveal their unconscious bias, that they're not doing seminars on systemic racism and prejudice, and then they're not making the assumption that unequal outcomes, let's say in terms of hiring in the STEM fields or in terms of employment in the STEM fields, which by the way are radically overestimated unless you gerrymander what constitutes the definition of a STEM discipline. You have to not participate in any of that, and you have to make it known to your peers, who would be other Silicon Valley founders, I would presume, that you're not doing any of that.
I'm not suggesting that you don't work hard in terms of an idea, but I'm trying to tell you, if you grind, you will be broke the rest of your life, or you will barely make it. This society did not become rich by workers. It became rich by the people who knew how to put the workers to work.
I heard a poem once that said, many a flower has bloomed unceasingly and wasted sweetness upon the cold desert air. It's translated, that means simply that many a talented persons have gone unnoticed, and the world never had a chance to be exposed to their talent because that person did not take the time to begin to express or to demonstrate or to motivate themselves in the direction to bring that which they came into the universe to bring.
If you can identify your God-given gift, that's your greatest chance for success. Because God gave all of you a gift. All of you are gifted, every last one of you. God gave you a gift at birth. He gave it to you. You ain't got to look for it, it's inside you. It's the thing that you do the absolute best, the least amount of effort. When you are living in your gift, when you get up in the morning to go to work, you're overjoyed. This is how you know you're not living in your gift. If you are waking up in the morning and you can't stand waking up because you don't want to go to your job, it's because you are not living in your God-given gift. God created you to have a life of abundance, to wake up in a joyous spirit. If you're not, it's because you have not tuned in to what God created you for.
The separation of talent and skill is one of the greatest misunderstood concepts for people who are trying to excel, who have dreams that want to do things. Talent you have naturally. Skill is only developed by hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft.
Life is not just watching the clock tick away. Life is a collection of experiences. Their intensity, their frequency. Whatever the span of your life turns out to be, here's what you want to fill it up with: experiences and the intensity of those experiences. Here's one of the best ones we covered earlier. When should you start building this hotel? Answer: as soon as you have it finished. When should you start the day? As soon as you have it finished. Plan the day the best you can, leaving plenty of room for improvising and surprises and all the stuff that happens during the course of the day. But if you've planned a good, productive day, now you start that day, you can't believe how much more valuable your time will be. Don't start the day until you have it finished.
Weak people are a problem in general. And I don't mean physically weak, I mean cowardly, let's say, and deceitful, because I'm thinking it more in terms of moral weakness. Well, there's a variety of reasons. First of all, if you can't support your own weight, let's say, then someone else has to do it. And that's not good. And then if you don't make your pathway, if you don't pick a forthright and useful and noble pathway through life, then you'll become bitter and too hurt by the tragedy of existence, and then you tend to seek your revenge wherever you can get it, and that's not good. So it's a mistake on all fronts. It's not good for you, it's not good for your family, it's not good for the community. It's certainly not a good medium to long-term strategy, because life is very, very difficult, and you have to be prepared for that. And I had a watcher the other night. He was at my lecture in Oslo, and he wrote me a letter. He was a 17-year-old boy, and he said that that my work had been very helpful to him. His father had died suddenly about 6 months before, and he found his dad when he was dying and was very, very shocked and horrified and hurt by what had happened. And I had recommended on my YouTube lectures that one thing you could aim for was to be the strongest person at your father's funeral. And so that's what he did. And he helped his mom, and he wrote a 200-word eulogy and got through it. And so, good for him. That's strength and necessary. It's a terrible thing that happened, but he did everything he could not to make it any worse than it had to be.
But do you never see that showing weakness can be a strength too?
Not weakness, vulnerability. That's a whole different thing. To admit to the fact that you're vulnerable, that's a form of courage. That's not a form of weakness. But that leads you to take whatever steps are necessary to deal with that properly. It isn't some facade that you're invulnerable. No one is invulnerable by any stretch of the imagination. And to stand up and face that is the best route that you have.
When I made this transition into the business world, what I discovered was, as you were talking a moment ago, you feel the tug on your heart, the kind of like, wow, I started here and now I'm over here. Here's what I believe. I believe that as you follow your dream, it gets bigger. And when it gets bigger, there are more things that you're learning about it that you didn't know when you started. In the beginning, the dream is just, it's just very little, and you can kind of see it. So you go that way, but then it begins to expand.
Yes.
And for me, it's a calling. And let me just say this. I'm not trying to be over spiritual, but somebody asked me the other day what a calling was, and I like kind of my new definition for calling. Okay. In fact, in my book, Leaderships, one of my chapters is shifting from career to calling, and how perfect. And how do I make that shift? But I think a calling is a purpose with a divine touch. So many times we miss happiness because we think it's out there, and so we pursue happiness. What we need to discover is the fact that happiness is not a place that you go or a status that you attain. Happiness is an inside job. That when I am content, happy, satisfied, pleased within myself, that everybody and everything will bring happiness around me. Just as if I'm displeased on the inside, there's nothing that will bring me pleasure or happiness on the outside. Happiness is not an outside job. It's an inside job. Happiness is not something that someone brings to me or gives to me. It's something I bring to myself and give myself. So give yourself today the gift of happiness. It's your choice. And guess what? The moment that you are happy within, there's a whole bunch of happiness that you're going to experience on the outside.
The only thing you have to believe in, hear my words. The only thing you have to believe right now is that humans are capable of learning. That humans, for whatever reason, nature has chosen to not endow us with a whole bunch of pre-programmed things. So for instance, a baby horse, a foal, I believe is how you say that. When they're born, they can already walk. Literally, boom, they come out and they're walking and all is well, because that's all hardwired into them. But a horse is a horse is a horse, and they're going to stay a horse, and that's that. And you're never going to find a horse reading Chaucer, just not going to happen. So that's all those decisions are pre-wired. Humans, on the other hand, come out, they cannot take care of themselves. They're a lump of flesh. They basically know how to suckle, and that's sort of the extent of it. But now humans have the ability to go in all these crazy different directions, and they can learn to become an astrophysicist, they can learn to become a carpenter, a doctor, an astronaut. The number of directions that humans can go in is crazy. The amount of what was once known as junk DNA we now know as epigenetic signaling, the way that we can respond in all these different directions to our environment and things we choose to focus our energies on is truly unique to humans, is just absolutely astonishing. So understanding that that's baked into the human animal is the ability to learn and go in any direction. So once you realize that humans are adaptation machines, that we can learn anything. Now it's like, okay, whatever you want to do, you can do it as long as you're willing to pay that price. I'm not saying that it's not going to be hard. It is going to be very, very hard. I'm just saying that it is doable and that you will receive a return on investment in your energies. And that's what people need to know and believe to the core of their being, that my time in this direction will be rewarded. Now, here's where people f themselves up. There is this retarded debate about whether or not it is, hey, am I pre-programmed, I'm good at math, and so that's it, and I should go do things that are math, or I'm good at verbal, and I should go do things that are verbal. I'm naturally gifted as an athlete, so I should go be an athlete. Look, I'm not saying people don't get early wins. People get early wins. And if you happen to love the thing you're getting early wins, and that's awesome, man, and you will find it just a little bit easier. You've got a headwind or a tailwind, I guess, a tailwind. You have a tailwind. And so that, yeah, love that. But if the thing that gives you the most energy in life is something that you have no natural inclinations for, go learn that. When I say that I have zero natural ability as an entrepreneur, I mean zero. I had to learn everything from not being lazy, to problem solving, to overcoming my paralyzing fear, to look at the world like a puzzle, dealing with anxiety. Literally, it was comical as I was going down my journey in the beginning as an entrepreneur to figure this shit out. Ridiculous. And then I meet people who are like ripping flowers out of people's front yards and selling them back to them. Like, when I say that was not me, I had a paper route and I was so chicken to go up to people's doors that I actually only got half the money that I could have gotten for the same paper route, the same amount of effort, but because I was so afraid to go knock on people's doors and ask to collect the money that was due, that for like 2 years, I did a paper route for half the money. Okay, that's how spastic of an entrepreneur I was when I started. So you can learn this stuff. Now, my goals demanded that I learn entrepreneurship, so I learned it. So that's what I want people to understand. What is your goal? Work backwards from there. If it lines up with what you're naturally good at, that's amazing. Congratulations. But there are going to be times where it doesn't line up, and you've just got to either change your goal or recognize that I'm going to have to figure these things out. And as an adaptation machine, as a human being, I can do all of that.
Life can throw you some curves. And it's not just the things that you see coming, but sometimes it's the things that you didn't see coming that hit you out of nowhere, that set you back in such a way that it seems like you can't get over.
I was in my comfort zone. I was doing just enough to get by. I was working on a job. They paid me just enough to keep me from quitting, and I worked just hard enough to keep from getting fired. I was parked. I knew I could do more. But when my mama died, it took something out of me. When I went through a divorce, it took something out of me. When my best friend died, it took something out of me. I parked. And somebody said that life is like an onion. You have to peel it one layer at a time. And sometimes you cry. Life's gonna happen to you when you have a dream. You're gonna get slapped around. And don't take it personal. Don't ask, why did this have to happen to me? Why not you? Who would you suggest? You wanna give us some names, some email addresses? And don't tell everybody. 80% don't care, and 20% glad it's you. It's called life. Suck it up and move on. Get over it.
No one's coming to save you. No one's coming to save you. The only person that's going to make a drastic change in your life, whether that's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, the only person that is going to dig you out of your hole is who? You. You have to do it for you.
You've got to become courageous to stand up within yourself, to face it and step forward. Continue to do those things that you know that work for you after you have evaluated yourself in the situation. Continue to move. Stay busy, stay busy, stay busy. It's not easy, but through practice and practice and practice, practice makes improvement.
You have absolutely nothing to do with what happened to you. It's not your fault. But if I come back a week later, you're still on the ground. If I come back a year later, you still on the ground, that's your fault. If you get knocked down, there's nothing you can do about it. But getting back up has every single thing to do with you. And you will promise me that from this day forward, you will not be defeated.
All of the people that I know who have become successful in any way use a structured means to organize their time. They have lists of things to do, like they have every day, there's a list of things to do that day. Every week, there's a list of things to do that week. Every month, there's a list of things to do that month. You know, at every level of temporal resolution, there's a sequence of plans, and those plans are implemented on a day-to-day basis. You cannot be, and successful isn't the right way of thinking about it, because I'm not thinking about, I'm not really thinking about rising up the corporate ladder. You know what I mean? And that's sort of what success has come to mean in our culture. That isn't what I mean. You can't have a life that you're going to find acceptable without that, because you need the vision and the plans to give you purpose and direction. That's where all your positive emotion comes from. All your motivation is laying out plans that are worth attaining and then observing yourself moving towards them. That's the source of most positive meaning. And then also, without that structure, you're so lost that you're going to be anxious and overwhelmed. It's really like being in a foreign country, like isolated and alone with no map. I don't know where the hell I am. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. The rains are going to come, the storms are going to come, and maybe it's winter, and I don't know where I am or where I'm going.
If you want to build a winning attitude, you need to take time, and this is probably going to surprise you based on what you've heard me say so far, but you need to take time to be quiet. You need to do it at least 4 or 5 times a week. A lot of people say, well, that guy keeps talking about time for this and time for that. I don't have time for all of these things. Let me tell you how you can create an extra 3 hours every day of your life, guaranteed. Over 70% of all of the time spent watching television, you're watching things you have no interest in watching. Let me encourage you to do this. Take a slow, lazy, drifting, absolutely meaningless walk. Just almost go to sleep on the walk. Not an exercise walk, you need to do those too, but a very quiet walk. Pick out a place in your home where you can be absolutely quiet on occasion. If you have to get up 30 minutes earlier, that's wonderful. I don't know why, but I seem to wake up earlier in the winter months than I do in the summer months. And when I get up, it's pitch dark. I have a nice little office. I go in there and I turn on the gas log and I sit there. And every time I do that, without exception, I have the most exciting day of my life. I simply run through my mind the things I'm going to be doing. As you plan the day, as you think of all of the things we've got to be excited about, it really does renew your energy and it gets you excited about the day. Now let me tell you something. This is going to be one of the toughest things you'll ever do. When you sit down saying, well, I'm going to sit perfectly quiet for 20 or even 30 minutes, you will think of 2,868 reasons or things that you've got to do. You try to decide, do I raise the window or lower it? Do I turn the heat up or down? Do I get the air conditioner off or do I turn it more full blast? Do I really need to go to the bathroom? Am I going to get me a cup of coffee? What is that noise against the outside? Maybe I better check up on that. Resist the temptation. Spend a few minutes in quiet, reflective thought. It does make a difference. Take time to be quiet.
We actually have a biological instinct for meaning that orients us in the world. And that instinct manifests itself when we place ourselves in a position in the world where we're competent, where what we're doing is working, so that we're not too terrified and anxious. but also while we're simultaneously advancing ourselves and improving our ability to cope with the world. So, for example, if you watch an athlete, a high-level athlete, who's at the peak of his or her performance, you see someone who's extraordinarily practiced at what they're doing and has developed the expertise necessary to do it. But then you also see them push themselves on that developmental edge to make themselves just that much better. And that function is associated with an intrinsic sense of meaning. And whenever you see anyone manifest that, you are automatically drawn to it. You see that when an actor pushes him or herself beyond their limits. You see that when someone speaks extemporaneously and manages it extraordinarily well. And I'm trying to help people understand that this meaning is a true phenomenon. It's not a secondary thing. And also to point out that most of the time, that meaning is associated with the adoption of responsibility.
Well, you know, there are remarkable people who come into the world from time to time, and there are people who do find out over decades-long periods what they could be like if they were who they were, if they spoke their being forward. And they get stronger and stronger and stronger, and we don't know the limits to that. We do not know the limits to that.
I think one of my greatest inspirations or things that I would feed off of basically was just obviously people not believing in the cloud of doubt that kind of I felt hung over my head and wanted to just prove everybody wrong. You know what I mean? I wanted to make it, and I was going to make it regardless of what anybody said.
I outlasted the pain. When I was sleeping in those abandoned buildings, I kept telling myself, one day you'll be a homeowner. Every time I walked into that abandoned building.
My greatest moments are probably the moments where I hit rock bottom, where everything was against the wall, where I failed, and I had to find intestinal fortitude with no one around and pick my ass up and reface what knocked me down, this time beating it. It's those moments in life that really build character. It's not the titles, it's not when the crowds are cheering, it's when no one's cheering. Who are you?
There's enough in my past to be ashamed of. Some decisions I wish I hadn't made. Some stuff I wish I could go back and fix. Some things I wish I could unsay. Some words I wish I could put back in my mouth. Some actions I wish I had never taken, but they're in my past. And I'm not gonna let you hold up my past as a mirror when God wants me to use it as a window.
When you're in that darkness, you want to sit there and wait for the light to come, but you can't wait. The only way out is to step forward, to face your fears, to become your own light. There's going to be a lot of times y'all about to fail. We are all a work in progress. But in that moment, I want you to remember the power of you.
What you have and who you are is enough. Live like a warrior. And warriors are always in fight mode. Because this thing called life, it's challenging. You got to fight for peace of mind. You got to fight to stay away from toxic, negative, energy-draining people. You got to fight to put all your efforts and energy into things that's productive and purposeful.
You can train yourself. You can condition yourself. That this is my moment, this is my time, this is my Super Bowl. There will be no commercial breaks. This is my stuff.
So it's really about you being in the state where you execute. Knowledge is not power, it's total BS. Knowledge is potential power. Execution trumps knowledge every day of the week, and so my life is how do you get yourself to execute? And execution comes from learning to put yourself in that right state every day.
You want to become a diamond. Your whole attitude change, your whole mindset, your thinking, your relationships, the decisions that you make, how you spend your time, your energy, all of it changes.
You're going to determine the outcome of your life. You're going to determine whether or not your life is exciting or whether or not it's boring. You determine that. And those people who know that, they move with a sense of urgency. They move with purpose and direction. They work it, they manage their time effectively.
And it is work to maintain the discipline. That's what it is, work. So work through the weakness. Fight through the temptation. Hold the line. It is not easy, but it is worth it. Yes, because discipline equals freedom.
As more time goes by, time disappears. Because when you're really fulfilled, when you're doing things that are really shifting you, have you ever discovered, like, what's a long time? A long time is anytime you're not enjoying yourself, right? A minute can feel like eternity if you're going through something horrible. But if you have a great time, hours go by, a day can go by so quick. So time is really emotion. And what we want to do here this week is see if we can give you some key principles each day, tools, and take some action. So we get that momentum going. So you really do set yourself up without any hyperbole, without any BS, without positive things. You truly set yourself up to make 2021 your best year. Because to make 21 your best year, you got to make you move to the next level. Who's with me on this? Say I. Say I. So in order to do that, we kind of identify it. So yesterday, we started with just understanding that we really got to take control of our own minds. That yes, some of what you experienced in the past world is kind of over. Something new is available. But you can't move on and build something new and create until you kind of let go of some of what you've been hanging on to, your expectations. And even if it's unjust, even if it's unfair, eventually we got to let go or we're the prisoner. So we walked through those 5 stages, if you recall, that people go through. That shock, that anger, or that sense of fear or loss, that trying to negotiate, so to speak, to make things happen. Eventually, a lot of sadness, eventually some acceptance of what has been. But as we said, we want to create now. That's what this is all about. And creating a way to not just get back to where you were, but get to a place that's even better. As I said always, the greatest story of humanity is always the comeback, isn't it? You want to root for that person. It's the Rocky story, right? It's the people that get knocked down. We all get knocked down. We all get taken to our knees. COVID is done now, or at least our reactions to COVID is done now. So it's not where you go, it's what do you do when that happens. Can anybody can do well when life is going your way? Can you do well? Can you find a way to do well when it's going against you? So yesterday we talked just a little bit about problems or gifts. It doesn't always look like it. If you recall, we chatted about there are times in your life when you've had some horrible things happen. When you look back 3, 4, 5 years later and you go, don't want to have to go through it again? Or anybody else I care to? And I see why it happened. It made me stronger, it made me care more, it made something shift in me. Or it gave me lessons that allowed me to succeed today. And then we talked just a little bit to give you a sense about what are the things that are really controlling us, those invisible forces we're talking about, those emotions. We have an emotional home. And literally, we find a way to get back to it. If our home is not so nice, we get back to it. If our home is beautiful, we get back to it, mentally and emotionally. So today, we want to show you what controls that emotional home. And it's this term called identity. Identity. And it's a similar theme. Yesterday, I saw many of you going back online. Thank you for doing it, sharing your old story, your new story, what you're going to do in 2021, because you need that clarity. Without a vision, people perish. It says in a very good book. And the bottom line is we need that vision. We're stressed out. So many people have no vision for where we're going. If your vision is just get back to work, that's not much of a vision. You got to say, how do we make it even better? But to do that, it's going to require a different you than the one that might be overwhelmed or stressed. And that's why we walked a little bit through the warrior and the lover and the magician and the king or queen or the sovereign. How many of you got a lot out of yesterday and it's still with you today? You're going to build on it here. Say, I. Awesome. So today, when we talk about identity, what are we really talking about? Please jot this down as a phrase. A long phrase, but jot it down because it's critical. When I started working with people, I started studying every tool I could find that could help people change quickly. And it wasn't because I was an intellectual. I wanted to change me. I was in high school, I loved people, but I wasn't the most popular kid in school. In fact, the most popular kid in school treated me and my friends like dirt, like trash. It was mean as hell. I thought, how could they be popular? And it made me want to understand human psychology, what drives people where they are. Plus, I was fat and short. I was 5'1", and so I had to figure out what to do to turn myself around. So I want to learn every tool. A lot of things I did gave me a change for a short term, but then I go back. Who's experienced this? Either like with your weight, or your finances start to make money and drops back, or a relationship, right? And it's like, it would piss me off. I get mad at myself. You know, I know many of you do this because it's human nature. But we have high expectations for ourselves. Somebody like you comes to an event like this, you're pushing yourself to be more, to create more. And I used to beat myself up, like, why did I do this? And there's a problem beating yourself up. What do you know what it is? When you beat yourself up, one of the critical elements of taking action, for solving things, for having a great psychology is energy. And when you beat yourself up, and you say, I should have done this, why didn't I do this, what's wrong with me? Does your energy increase or decrease, guys? Show me, which one? You know damn well it decreases. So what it actually does, it becomes a trap. The more you beat yourself up, the worse you get. And then you beat yourself up more, and now you're in this vicious cycle.
3 major parts of personal development. Number 1 is physical part. Part of success is physical. Some people don't do well because they don't feel well. One of the first things to go to work on with intensive effort, and that's your own good health. Because a lot of things come from that. You know, the future possibilities could be greatly diminished by being lazy in producing maximum health. You'll take care of that as a support system. You can't believe what else is possible. You can't believe what the mind can think of. You can't believe your imagination and your faith and your ability to say, hey, I'll go to work with you. Why? I'm healthy, vigorous, vital. I'm not out of breath. But sometimes, you know, when all these ideas and stuff come, you know, you're a little bit too weak to even attempt. You say, oh, I'm not sure I can do that. The doubts sometimes are more physical than they are mental. You haven't got the vitality to believe it's possible. But if you've got the vitality and the strength, and you've got the health to do it, I'm telling you, ideas seem to love to be invested in healthy people that have got the ability and the ambition to do it. Got the health to do it, the strength to do it. So why not start with the health and see if your own vitality would inspire you to more imagination? Because now when you imagine, you can pull it off. But if you can't pull it off, you know, why imagine? The imagination says, why go to work and spin all these goals and stuff when the body isn't ready to do it? So start with physical. Very important.
How do you respond when you find yourself dealing with situations that are very painful? In fact, you get rejected, somebody walks out on you. You feel like they were dishonest with you, they didn't tell you the truth. You feel lonely, you feel hurt, very discouraged. When you think about all the things that happen to people and the reactions we have, how do you feel? Do you just want to say, you know what, I don't have to put up with this anymore? And you just decide, I'm gonna walk away. I quit. I give up. I don't have to do this. I don't have to stay here. How do you really and truly feel?
Discouragement is so bold that it will even hide behind a smile and tell you life is not worth living. If you listen at discouragement, it will cause you to make bad decisions. It will cause you to think that life is not worth living. And secretly, behind the facade of a smile and a good morning and a praise the Lord and a how are you, you will wonder if you're ever going to get out of what you're into.
And if you're in the process right now, giving up on your marriage, giving up on your job, giving up on your children, giving up on your financial situation, whatever the situation may be, before you give up, you stop and ask yourself the question, does this fit who I am? And this message is all about, listen, it's all about keeping on. And that is to have the courage to keep on keeping on. And if you will listen carefully and apply these points that I'm going to lay out before you, You don't have to give up and quit. There is an answer and a solution to what God wants to do in your life at this point, no matter what it is.
It happens to everybody. Here's the other thing, is you look at your goals and look at your dreams. When you're going through some stuff, when things go wrong, don't go with them. When things go wrong, don't go with them. When you're working on a business deal, you're counting on some money. Someone said you will get the loan, and it falls through. You have an event, and the people that you thought would be there and support you, they don't come through. Or someone turns against you, or you get ripped off. It's going to happen to you. It happened to me. Someone stole all my products. My database, over 180,000 names and addresses. It's not personal. It's going to happen to everybody. It does. 8 out of 10 millionaires have been financially bankrupt. Walt Disney had 7. He filed bankruptcy 7 times and had 2 nervous breakdowns. It's called life. But I got a saying, when life knocks you down, try and land on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up. You've got the power in you to do that. You've got something special. You've got comeback power. Take ownership for your life. Nobody can live your dream for you but you. Nobody's going to take care of your business like you. Stop coming up with excuses. Don't give yourself permission to continue to live a small life. You can't fit a big dream into a small life. Give yourself permission to go for it, to test yourself, to challenge yourself, live full. Like the saying, always strive to get on top in life, because it's the bottom that's overcrowded. There's something in you that tells you this is not it for you. You have not peaked here. There's more in you that you are expressing. Eye is not seen, ear is not heard, nor has entered the heart of mankind what's in store for you if you challenge yourself, if you persist and persevere, if you take ownership for your life. George Bernard Shaw said the people that make it in this life, they look around for the circumstances that they want, and if they can't find them, they create them. Create what you want. You have the power in you to do more than you can ever begin to imagine, to control your destiny, to make a difference in our children, to make a difference on the planet, to make an impact. Let us say together, it's me. Let us say together, it's hard.
Yes, it's hard, and we will do it hard. And once we do it hard, we go through it, we realize it was worth it. And once you discover it was worth it, it is done.
What's at the core of achieving the good life? The major key to the good life. The major key is not in learning how to set goals. It is not in learning how to better manage your time. It is not in mastering the attributes of leadership. Every day in 1,000 different ways, we are trying to improve ourselves by learning how to do things. We spend a lifetime gathering knowledge in classrooms, in textbooks, in experiences. Now, if knowledge is power, if knowledge is the forerunner to success, then why do we fall short of our objectives? Why, in spite of all our knowledge and in spite of our collective experiences, do we find ourselves aimlessly wandering, settling for a life of existence rather than a life of substance? There may be many answers to this question. Your answers may be different than your associates or your spouses or your friends. While there may be many answers to this question, the fundamental answer is the absence of discipline. Applying all that we know. That's the key word, discipline. Self-discipline. We might add one more word here, consistent. Consistent self-discipline. It doesn't really matter how smart you are or how much you know if you don't use it. It doesn't really matter that you graduated magna cum laude if you're stuck in a low-paying job. It doesn't really matter if you attended every seminar that comes to town if you don't apply what you've learned. Better than knowledge is applied knowledge. And once we've applied our knowledge, we must study the results of that process. Apply our knowledge, study the results, refine our approach. Finally, by trying and observing and refining and trying again, our knowledge will inevitably produce worthy results, admirable results. And with the joy and results of our efforts, we continue to apply, to learn, to observe, to fuel our ambition with the positive reinforcement of continued progress. Pretty soon, we'll find that we're swept into a spiral of achievement, a vertical rise to success. And the ecstasy of that total experience makes for a life of triumph over tragedy, dullness, and mediocrity. But for this whole process to work for us, we must first master the art of discipline, self-discipline, consistent self-discipline.
Now, when you decide to act, you're going to have some people like that. We're no longer friends. I lost sleep over that, ladies and gentlemen. I said, I can't believe that. I remember sitting up one night looking at the phone. I said, I gotta call him. He said, no. And I said, no, forget that. I called, man, look here, we've been knowing each other for too long to allow this to come between us. He said, don't call me anymore. Hung up. And then I wanted to think about what can I do to make it up to him? And then something came to me, less. What do you have to prove? See, many things we don't do is because of the fact we want people to like us. There's some necessary losses in life. When you decide acting in your best interest, you're going to lose some friends. Everybody's not going to approve of you. There's some people that won't like you. Who do you think you are? You're arrogant. What do you think you can do? You think you can get away with that? You're selfish. Thanks, I got that. It's my life. And so what I'm saying to you is that as you begin to look out on your life, this is challenging. This is not easy acting. So what are the things that we can begin to do to harness our will? Number one, you've got to bring it out and look at it. You've got to take the power out of it. You've got to expose it to the truth. And the truth is that it has no power over you. So write down something you want to act on, but for some reason that you've been holding back, and look at it. The next thing is, ask yourself the question, is it helping you to continue to put it off? If it's an asset for you to continue to procrastinate, then continue to do that. But if it's a liability for you, if it's causing you some mental and some emotional challenges, or perhaps a financial problem, look at that. Examine that for what it is. Next step, ask yourself, what's blocking you? What's preventing you from acting? Why don't you have the courage to handle that? Why won't you face that? What are you running away from? What kind of avoidance behavior are you engaged in? Next is, what is the worst thing that can happen when you take action? So I looked at that, and I said, what's the worst thing can happen when I tell him this? He can say, I don't like you, and he did. Now what happened? I experienced that, I looked at that, I saw that, and guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I didn't die. My feelings were hurt a little bit. I lost some sleep about it, and sometimes I think about it when I drive past his house, but I'm still here. It's uncomfortable, but it's okay. It doesn't bother me anymore. I've gotten used to it now. So what is the worst thing that can happen? I want you to visualize that, experience that, feel the nervousness and the discomfort. And the more you run it in your mind, the less power that it will have.
If you think about what makes up who we are. So obviously there's genetics, there's our genetic makeup, so our predisposition, our propensities. And that makes up a percentage of how we see the world and how we show up. But then the rest of it, we're trained on. So we're trained to see the world a certain way. So there are certain people that have something called a negativity bias. And a negativity bias is nothing more than they see the negative first. It's not that they don't see the positive, but they see the negative first. There's other people who see positive first. They have a positivity bias and they see that first. And the truth is, in almost every situation, in every circumstance, there's both. You can train somebody to recognize that there's always both, just like every inside has an outside. Every one side of a coin has another side of a coin. Every up has a down. That's called the law of polarity. And in the universe that we live in, there is that law of polarity. And so you can teach somebody, say, okay, if your propensity, if the way you naturally are is negativity bias first, great, be aware of that, then flip over. We call it flip the switch. So if one side of your brain is going negativity first, great, learn to flip the switch. Go, great, what's the positive side of that? That's a skill you can learn, no differently than playing tennis or chess or music.
At the end of your feelings is nothing, but at the end of every principle is a promise. Behind your little feelings, it might not be absolutely nothing at the end of your little feelings, but behind every principle is a promise. And some of you in your life, the reason why you're not at your goal right now is you just all about your feelings. You all on your feelings. You don't feel like waking up. So who does? Every day you say no to your dreams, you might be pushing your dreams back a whole 6 months, a whole year. That one single day, that one day you didn't get up could have pushed your stuff back I don't know how long.
It's really hard to be led by your butt. But I'm not qualified, but I'm not good enough, but I'm not smart enough, but I didn't go to the right school, but I don't have enough money, but. If you're ever gonna step into your future, if you're ever gonna step into your destiny, you're gonna have to get over your butt.
And so I love the process. I love it. I love working for what I want. I love the sacrifice. I love the dedication. I love the commitment. I love that. Everybody wants the prize. Nobody wants the process. Everybody wants to be a diamond. Nobody is willing to get cut. Everybody wants to go to heaven. Nobody wants to die.
Talent you have naturally. Skill is only developed by hours and hours and hours of beating on your craft. The commodity, the majority of people who aren't achieving the things that they want is strictly based on hustle. It's strictly based on being outworked. It's strictly based on missing crucial opportunities.
For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Simply stated, as it applies to you and me, it means we can achieve nothing without paying the price. Now, what is that price? Well, it's many things. First, it's understanding emotionally, as well as intellectually, that we literally become what we think about, that we must control our thoughts if we're to control our lives. It's understanding fully that, as ye sow, so shall ye reap. Secondly, it's cutting away all the fetters from the mind and permitting it to soar as it was divinely designed to do. It's the realization that your limitations are self-imposed and that the opportunities for you today are enormous beyond belief. It's rising above narrow-minded pettiness and prejudice. Thirdly, to use all your courage to force yourself to think positively on your own problem, to set a definite and clearly defined goal for yourself, to let your marvelous mind think about your goal from all possible angles, to let your imagination speculate freely upon many different possible solutions, to refuse to believe there are any circumstances sufficiently strong to defeat you in the accomplishment of your purpose, to act promptly and decisively when your course is clear, and to keep constantly aware of the fact that you are, at this moment, standing in the middle of your own acre of diamonds, as Russell Conwell used to point out. Fourth, save at least 10% of what you earn. It's also remembering that no matter what your present job, it has enormous possibilities if you're willing to pay the price. Now let's just go over the important points in the price each of us must pay to achieve the wonderful life that can be ours. It is, of course, worth any price. 1, you will become what you think about. 2, remember the word imagination. Let your mind soar. 3, courage. Concentrate on your goal every day. 4, save 10% of what you earn. And action.
So if I was saying, well, you're going to try to make yourself more industrious, okay, number one, specify your damn goals, because how are you going to hit something if you don't know what it is? That isn't going to happen. And often people won't specify their goals too because they don't like to specify conditions for failure. So if you keep yourself all vague and foggy, which is real easy because that's just a matter of not doing as well, then you don't know when you fail.
And people might say, well, I really don't want to know when I fail because that's painful. So I'll keep myself blind about when I fail. That's fine, except you'll fail all the time then. You just won't know it until you've failed so badly that you're done. And that can easily happen by the time you're 40. So I would recommend that you don't let that happen. So that's willful blindness, right? You could have known, but you chose not to.
I often ask somebody, what are you going to do the next 6 months? And somebody starts to tell me. I say, no, don't tell me. Show me. Show me your game plan for the next 6 months. Then I can look at things and maybe I can help. But you got to operate from paper. Put it on a game plan. Take action on what you found out. Now here's the best word I know of to go with action. Massive. See, that'll change everything. Massive action is called the cure-all. If you're going to make calls, make a few thousand. If you're going to make contacts, make a few thousand. If you're going to knock on doors, knock on a few thousand. See, that'll change everything.
Okay, so once you get your goal structure set up, you think, okay, if I could have this life, looks like that might be worth living, despite the fact that it's going to be, anxiety-provoking and threatening, and there's going to be some suffering and loss involved in all of that, obviously. The goal is to have a vision for your life such that, all things considered, that justifies your effort. Okay, so then what do? Well, then you turn down to the micro routines. It's like, okay, well, this is what I'm aiming for. How does that instantiate itself day to day, week to week, month to month? And that's where something like a schedule can be unbelievably useful. Google Calendar. It's like, make a damn schedule and stick to it. Okay, so what's the rule with the schedule? It's not a bloody prison. That's the first thing that people do wrong. They say, well, I don't like to follow a schedule. It's like, well, what kind of schedule are you setting up? Well, I have to do this, then I have to do this, then I have to do this, and then I just go play video games, because who wants to do all these things that I have to do? It's like, wrong. Set the damn schedule up so that you have the day you want. That's the trick. It's like, okay, I've got tomorrow. If I was going to set it up so it was the best possible day I could have, practically speaking, what would it look like?
Here's the language of the poor. I'll try it a time or two and see what happens. It's the way poor people talk. The guy says, well, I'll give it 30 days. 30 days. You could guess his bank balance. You've got to have a better game plan. So here's one of the major things to do starting tomorrow. Take a look at your game plan. If it isn't loaded with massive action, change it tomorrow. The formula really works like this. Pick up a good idea, take heavy action. Pick up a couple of good ideas, take heavy action.
As soon as you blame, shame, or justify, you are disempowering yourself instead of being responsible for your emotions, your feelings, your attitude, and your actions. When you take responsibility, then you are not at the mercy of the outside world and what happens in the outside world. You learn how to upgrade your emotional ability, so whether you're happy or sad or disgusted or frustrated or angry or fearful, you know how to navigate the emotions that causes either the motivational center in your brain to light up or the fear center in your brain to light up, thereby causing you to stop and procrastinate and not take action.
One of the biggest reasons why you're unhappy is because deep down you know what you want, but you won't allow yourself to have it. And I want to break this down for you, because after coaching millions of people for the last decade, this is a fundamental issue for each and every one of us. So as you go about your life and you scroll through social media, you will inevitably bump into images or people who have the things that you'd like to have, or they're doing the things that you've always dreamt of doing. And instead of using that moment to inspire you to take action, to either learn about the thing you want to be doing, to do the work to get the things that you want, you're capable of doing those things. But instead of taking action, you make a fatal mistake. We all do this, by the way. You stop and you consider the thing that you want or the thing that you want to do, and then you tell yourself, it'll never happen for me. Right there, you just killed your inspiration, you killed your dream, you killed your goal, you invalidated yourself, you invalidated your desires, you pounded yourself down into the ground and basically said you're not worthy of that thing. And in that second, you just gave up on yourself and on all the things that are actually meant for you in your life. And so what do I want you to do about it? Well, here's what I want you to do about it. I want you to understand that you get to want those things, and you also can have them, but it's going to require action. And so the next time you find yourself going about your life and you feel that pang inside of you where you're like, gosh, I'd love to have that kind of car, or I'd love to have that kind of house, or I'd love to have that kind of health or mindset. Note it, and then remind yourself of a simple truth. I can have that mindset. I can have that car. I can have that lifestyle. I just have to be willing to put in the work. It's that simple. Stop telling yourself it'll never happen for you. Because the reason why it's not happening is because you keep telling yourself it won't. The second you tell yourself it absolutely can happen for me, I just got to do the work, you will flip into a mode of taking action, and that's when you'll get it done.
Everybody's got these stupid barriers they put in their own head. You got to resist those goddamn things because they don't do you any good, and they certainly define the potential for your future in a negative way that's not self-serving and it's not even real. This idea that there's no way to get past the starting block today is just ludicrous. It's crazy. And it's just this poor thinking. And people that are trapped in bad situations, one of the problems is you feel like this is your future. You feel like and you can't get out of that. There's no hope. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no rainbow. And if you feel like that, that alone can be incredibly defining and limiting.
But the truth is that none of them matter. The truth is, if you want to build something in your life, then you have to remember what Mark Twain said. You have to get started, because at the end of the day, that is literally the only thing that's holding you back. You're not moving. And once you get the simplicity of that, once you understand that you could act right now.
When life knocks your butt down, I need you to get back up and I need you to go heavy on it. When uncertainty creeps in, I need you to get up and get right back on the thing that knocked you off, and I need you to go heavy on it. When something doesn't turn out the way you wanted to turn out, I need you to attack the very thing that didn't turn out the way that you wanted to turn out, and I need you to go heavy on it. It's never about the competitors. It's about what we possess and what we do.
It's relentlessness, man. It's pushing past barriers. It's every time you get somewhere, it's wanting to go to the next level.
You guys are entitled to What you're entitled to is an opportunity to show up and be your best.
While the people are giving up, feeling like victims, feeling powerless, becoming negative, turning on each other rather than to each other, feeling that they can't make it. Be ye not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind with the mindset of that it's possible that we can save this generation. It's possible that we can create new industries, a new economy. It's possible that I can find a new profession, a new job. It's possible I can create a new life. And it's necessary that I become actively involved in becoming a positive force in my life and on the planet. And it's me, yes, it's you, it's all of us, pulling together, working together to create this brand new future. And it's going to be hard. Easy is not an option. But if it's hard, we will do it hard. Whatever is required to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. And it's worth it, yes. It's worth whatever we have to do. And once we know that, it is done. It is done. It is done.
I think we're all faced with great opportunities brilliantly disguised as impossible situations. And in order, like for me personally, and after looking through your book and reading a good portion of it, I mean, for me, there's no school of ancient wisdom that you need to go to be initiated. Your life is your initiation if you're paying attention. So we meet challenges in our life from a certain level of mind, right? A certain level of consciousness or unconsciousness. And even Einstein said we have to go to a greater level of consciousness than the consciousness that's created the problem. Well, what is consciousness? Consciousness is awareness. And awareness means possibilities that you haven't thought of before. So we confront problems or challenges in our life. And as a side note, I was having breakfast with a researcher just last week who's studying what happens when we perceive and condition in our environment as a problem, how it weakens the organism. They're measuring this. And when a person sees it as a challenge, how they draw energy, they raise the energy of their body back into order. So if we said, I want to be wealthy or I want to be healthy, well, what you want to be that because you're not it. So the initiation of going from not it here to it here, you're going to have to climb some steps, and there's going to be some blind spots. So you try it out and it doesn't work. Well, that's because there's a part of you that's still in a habit. There's part of you that's still unconscious. Okay, so what is it about myself and that circumstance that I am feeling about that circumstance, and that feeling is causing me to think about it? So you say, oh, it's impossible, they'll never change. I'll hire a hitman, I'll hire the mafia, I'll hire an attorney, I'll have my friend's friend to talk to him, and nothing changes, right? Well, you're not separate from that experience. You're involved in it, and how you think and how you feel broadcasts energy into the field. So your energy is the same every day, and as long as your energy is the same, nothing's going to change in your life either. And nobody changes until they change their energy. So then, what piece of knowledge, what piece of information, what would love do? What would greatness look like? Okay, I don't know. All right, well, certainly somebody in history has faced this problem. Don't get on Facebook and say, does anybody have any answers? Go look it up and study and read and learn. You'll own it. And you'll say, wow, that person that was wealthy, they failed 500 times. Yeah. Well, hell, I had the wrong view of wealth. Okay, then failure's not a thing. I got to overcome failure. Well, yeah. Just climb the step. Yeah. Okay, I'm reacting to that circumstance with the same emotion. That emotion is firing the same thoughts. I'm broadcasting the same energy into the field. If I were facing that circumstance and situation again with that person, that circumstance, what do I learn from that circumstance? How could I do it differently the next time? Find out a solution and rehearse it. Install the circuitry so when you get in the circumstance, you're not going to respond in an automatic habituation. Yeah. Now you're at a greater level of consciousness. Now you're looking at possibilities that you weren't looking at before because you were unconscious. Now, that process of trial and error is so important in the spiritual path. How many times do we have to forget before we remember? And then we remember and we forget again. And it takes constantly remembering until we stop forgetting. And when we get to that point, now we're conscious. Now there's wisdom. And wisdom is the memory of the experience without the emotional charge. Now you're ready for the new adventure. So then people draw conclusions and say, oh, it's that person that ripped me off. It's that person that what? Now you don't create your reality? Oh, you only create your reality when things are good. No, well, somehow you got to tango through this. Somehow your objectivity in not reacting emotionally is going to change the energy of how you address this situation.
Now, first off, I'd like you to stop telling yourself that you're a born procrastinator or you're naturally a lazy person. It's not true. You were not born that way. It's just a story you tell yourself, which means it's a story you can change. So from now on, every time you chide yourself for procrastinating or being lazy, I want you to tell yourself that you already have everything you need to accomplish any goal you can imagine, because that is the real truth of the matter.
Would have stopped being afraid sooner and earlier that greatness and abundance and wild success was available to someone that looked like me, someone that came from my background, someone that had my educational foundation, which was I'm functionally dyslexic. I struggled in school. I would have still given myself permission sooner to have a breathtaking, abundant life. While I was transforming my life, I still kept this sense of disbelief. And so I know that I slowed myself down a lot because until I believed it was for me, it couldn't really come into my hemisphere, it couldn't come into my life. So I would have done more work on my mindset earlier. I would have not just chased the goal, I would have chased the new belief system first. Well, I hope that some of my mistakes, based on what I didn't know, helps you to know some things sooner, quicker, faster, or that it just helps to validate that you're not alone in your thinking. I don't ever try to be perfect. I just want to perfectly manage my imperfection.
Be a quick learner. Don't let it take long to teach you. Learn quick. Don't run at the wall too many times. Learn quicker. One guy said he broke his nose 7 times in the same place. Somebody says, looks like you'd stay out of that place. Learn quicker. Don't be stubborn. See, some people won't change even when a better way comes. You say, well, I've been doing it this way 30 years. Hey, be ready for change. If it's a better way, go for it. But don't try to beat it.
Better have a valued goal, because otherwise you can't get any positive motivation working out. And so the more valuable the goal, in principle, the more the micro processes associated with that goal start to take on a positive charge. And so what that means is, well, you get up in the morning and you're excited about the day, you're ready to go. And so as far as I can tell, what you do is you specify your long-term ideal.
You see, what happens is this then, that an individual who all his life long has played the social game is then says, well, now I've done that. I've assumed this role, I've become identified with Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Sailor, whatever it was. But now who am I? Really? In order to find that out, I have to go off by myself. Why? Because you have a role conception, a masked conception of yourself, because other people tell you who you are.
If belief is a construct, then like any other construct, it can be manipulated and changed. And at any moment, you can choose to believe something new about yourself. Now, the weird thing about belief is as soon as you change that belief, it becomes true. Why that is, I will never quite understand. What weird quirk of human evolution has left us in a space where simply believing it makes it true? If you think you're dumb, guess what? You're dumb. And you will act in accordance with that belief, and that should scare the shit out of you.
So if you think about it, people wake up in the morning, they begin to think about their problems. Those problems are circuits, memories in the brain. Each one of those memories are connected to people and things at certain times and places. And if the brain is a record of the past, the moment they start their day, they're already thinking in the past. Each one of those memories has an emotion. Emotions are the end product of past experiences. So the moment they recall those memories of their problems, they all of a sudden feel unhappy, they feel sad, they feel pain. Now, how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. So the person's entire state of being when they start the day is in the past. So what does that mean? The familiar past will sooner or later be predictable future. So if you believe that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny, and you can't think greater than how you feel, or feelings have become the means of thinking, by very definition of emotions, you're thinking in the past. And for the most part, you're going to keep creating the same life. So then people grab their cell phone, they check their WhatsApp, they check their texts, they check their emails, they check Facebook, they take a picture of their feet, they post it on Facebook, they tweet something, they do Instagram, they check the news, and now they feel really connected to everything that's known in their life. And then they go through a series of routine behaviors. They get out of bed on the same side, they go to the toilet, they get a cup of coffee, they take a shower, they get dressed, they drive to work the same way, they do the same things, they see the same people, they push the same emotional buttons, and that becomes the routine, and it becomes like a program. So now they've lost their free will to a program, and there's no unseen hand doing it to them. So when it comes time to change, the redundancy of that cycle becomes a subconscious program. So now 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old is a memorized set of behaviors, emotional reactions, unconscious habits, hardwired attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions that function like a computer program.
the mind is the matrix in and of itself. Right now, today, in this moment, I promise you, the matrix has you. If you guys know David Foster Wallace's concept of this is water, to a fish, water is so ubiquitous it ceases to exist. Now we all have that same thing, and it's playing on us, and it's keeping us from becoming who we want to become. And that thing is our mindset. It's our belief system. It is so ever present. It is so ingrained into the fabric of who you are and the way that you process data, you don't even notice it. You don't even know that it's real. And this is the thing that impacts your life. It is your inability to see that your mindset controls everything, that it is water in and of itself. Now, when I heard this from Shakespeare, I realized that once you become aware of the water, you can change everything.
So then a person can say with their 5% of their conscious mind, I want to be healthy, I want to be happy, I want to be free. But the body's on a whole different program. So then how do you begin to make those changes? Well, you have to get beyond the analytical mind, because what separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind is the analytical mind. And that's where meditation comes in, because you can teach people through practice how to change their brainwaves, slow them down. And when they do that properly, they do enter the operating system where they can begin to make some really important changes. So most people then wait for crisis or trauma or disease or diagnosis, and they wait for loss, some tragedy to make up their mind to change. And my message is, why wait? And you can learn and change in a state of pain and suffering, or you can learn and change in a state of joy and inspiration. And I think right now, the cool thing is that people are waking up.
Every public appearance that I've made that's related to the sort of topics that we're discussing is overwhelmingly men. It's like 85 to 90%. And so I thought, wow, that's weird. Like, what the hell's going on here exactly? And then the other thing I've noticed is that I've been talking a lot to the crowds that I've been talking to, not about rights, but about responsibility, right? Because you can't have the bloody conversation. What are you doing? You can't have the conversation about rights without the conversation about responsibility, because your rights are my responsibility. That's what they are, technically. So you just can't have only half of that discussion. And we're only having half that discussion. And the question is, well, what the hell are you leaving out if you only have that half of the discussion? And the answer is, well, you're leaving out responsibility. And then the question is, well, what are you leaving out if you're leaving out responsibility? And the answer might be, well, maybe you're leaving out the meaning of life. That's what it looks like to me. It's like, here you are, suffering away. What makes it worthwhile? Rights? You know, you're completely out. You have no idea what it's almost impossible to describe how bad an idea that is. Responsibility. That's what gives life meaning. It's like, lift a load. Then you can tolerate yourself, right? Because look at, you're useless, easily hurt, easily killed. Why should you have any self-respect? That's the story of the fall. Pick something up and carry it. Make it heavy enough so that you can think, yeah, well, useless as I am, at least I could move that from there to there. Well, what's really cool about that is that when I talk to these crowds about this, the men's eyes light up. And that's I've seen that phenomenon because I've been talking about this mythological material for a long time. And I can see when I'm watching crowds, people, you know, their eyebrows lift, their eyes light up because I put something together for them. And that's what mythological stories do. So I'm not taking responsibility for that. That's what the stories do. So I say the story and people go click, 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 you know, and their eyes light up. But this responsibility thing, that's a whole new order of this, is that young men are so hungry for that, it is unbelievable. It just blows me away. It's like, really? That's the counterculture. Grow the hell up and do something useful. Really? I could do that? Oh, I'm so excited by that idea. No one ever mentioned that before. It's like rights, 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 rights. Jesus, it's appalling. And I feel that that's deeply felt by the people who are coming out to listen to these sorts of things too. They've had enough of that. So, and they better have, because it's a non-productive mode of being. Responsibility, man.
Life has no duplicate, as Jerry Jackson would say. And so you want to do life on your terms. You want to do you. You want to live each day as if it were your last. and give it everything you have. And that's what I'm focused on. At my 77th year on the planet is to finish strong and to do things that will impact my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren, and live a life that will outlive me. As we look at now where we are, there's a reckoning that's going on. And this is an incredible time to really turn things to your advantage. And there are a lot of people right now are looking and asking the question, what's next? Because life is disruptive, but also in the process, it's transformational. Because when there's a disruption, you have to transform yourself to accommodate the disruptions. You don't want to just be a victim or a witness. You want to be engaged and on top of your game in order to go to that next level. And New York requires that. The world requires that right now more than ever before. I asked a young man who was taking my bags, I said, what's your passion? He said, my children. He said in a split second. That grabbed me, because that's where I'm coming from. My children, that's my passion. Now, the things that I do to generate money, that's one thing, but my passion is to help my kids have the tools they need to live a meaningful, successful, impactful life, to be an asset to the world rather than a liability. And I know many of you feel the same way. And so as you look at yourself, look at your goals, and look at what do you want to do. How many of you are hungry for greatness? Let me see some hearts up in here, up in here. You have greatness in you. You have built-in greatness. But that greatness, it must be focused on. That greatness, it must be cultivated and developed. That greatness, it must be called forth. And as you work on yourself and work on your dreams and realize that you've been given the power, authority, and dominion to do more than you can ever begin to imagine.
Everything in your life happens for a reason. Your responsibility is to look at these things in your life and ask this question, why now?
You need activation energy to start the chain, to start to sit down, to start to get out of bed, to start to walk out the door. That's the key to creating any kind of change. This activation energy inside of you that causes the initial boom. And then what do we hear over time? Once you start, there's a chain reaction, and that allows you to keep going.
If you only have 24 hours in a day, your success is dependent upon how you use the 24. You gotta hear me. People talk about Oprah Winfrey, Ted Turner, Warren Buffett. Listen to me. I don't care how much money you make. You only get 24 hours in a day. And the difference between Oprah and the person that's broke is Oprah uses her 24 hours wisely. That's it. Listen to me. That's it. You get 24. I don't care if you broke, you grew up broke. I don't care if you grew up rich. I don't care if you're in college, you're not in college. You only get 24 hours. And I blew up literally.
If you could have what you needed and wanted, what would it be? What sort of friends would you have? What would your family relationships look like? How would you conduct yourself with your children? How would you educate yourself? You need to think through how it is that your life could be properly arranged if you had that ability. And then you can aim at that. And the funny thing is that if you do posit a goal of that sort and work towards it, you will move towards it. The goal will change because you'll learn things along the way. But I mean, I've dealt with hundreds of people in my clinical and consulting practice, and we set a goal, we develop a vision and work towards it, and things inevitably get better for me. So it's not a luxury, it's difficult. It's a moral responsibility, and it isn't happiness. It's not, the pursuit isn't for happiness.
There's always more room to grow. There's always more knowledge to gain, always more skills to perfect. We're never done with the education process because education is part of the path to wealth. Education and learning is part of the path to health. Continued education can turn you around if you're headed in the wrong direction. We need to open up our minds to different alternatives. We need to learn to appreciate the other side of the debate so that we can strengthen our own and defend our own. We need to expose ourselves to a wide range of thoughts and philosophies and ideologies. Be eager to learn. Always be eager to learn, no matter how far along you are in the journey, no matter where you are in your success. Keep that eagerness to learn. Gather up as much knowledge as you can. And then what? Debate it. Put it all on the table and look at it. Dissect it. Turn it around and stare at it. Ask questions. Make statements. Make sure that what you finally do, the model you develop of strong appreciation for your own style and your own methods and your own process for achievement, make sure that what you finally do is a product of your own conclusion. That's what's valuable. Be a student, not a follower.
When I was growing up, everybody's goal was get rich enough so you never have to work. Now, like all my friends are 15, 18 years my senior. People like Steve Wynn in most of Las Vegas, he's like 74. Warren Buffett's 85. Peter Guber, one of my dearest friends in the world, owns the Golden State Warriors, the LA Dodgers. We're partners in the LAFC football team in LA. Brilliant guy, 74 years old. And they're all working harder now than they ever were, and they don't have to work. So the goal is make enough money so you don't have to work, and then you'll do what you love and you'll pour your time and energy into it. But you have to make that decision. It's the first most important decision is I'm going to become an owner of American business. You don't want to have an Apple phone and not own Apple. And you don't want to just own Apple because any company can go up and down. Right? You want to own the index. You want to own, a variety with enough diversification. But if you can just shift, and I've taught people who've told me they have no money, they can't save. It's really easy once you get momentum.
I run a company with hundreds and hundreds of team members, multiple profit centers within the company. Every one of those folks has a plan for the revenue they're going to produce in this month, this quarter, and this year, and the expenses they're going to spend to do that in this month, this quarter, and this year. Thereby, we do annual projections. It's really not rocket science. It's 6th grade math. What are you going to do with your money? Don't get to the end of the month and go, where'd it go? Because you end up being a rat in a wheel. And you work your whole life. Run, 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 run. And you get to the end of your life, and there's nothing. And you earned $4 to $10 million in your working lifetime. And you have nothing. Because you didn't write it down. It's a serious principle. You got to get out of debt and stay out of debt. Now, everybody knows Dave Ramsey's going to say that. Everybody knows I'm going to say Proverbs 22:7. The borrower is slave to the lender. When you don't have any payments, you know what you got? Money. That was hard. Are we through yet? You getting this? It's not deep, but I wanna. Yeah, that's the problem. I wanna. I need nothing, but I want a lot of stuff. There's nothing wrong with getting you some nice stuff, but the problem is when your stuff gets you. When you got a student loan that's been around so long you think it's a pet. When MasterCard is your master. When you have discovered bondage or American distress. Well, you can't live without debt. That's what my finance professor said too, and he was broke. What's wrong with that picture? A broke finance professor. Broke finance professor is like a shop teacher with missing fingers. You have kind of a Dr. Phil moment with some of these people. How's that working for you? Because all these people who run around, these quote-unquote experts, and all of them that taught me, I was in the real estate business. We used OPM, other people's money. We were taught leverage and all the sophisticated views of leverage and all this stuff. And I can unpack it for you and I can pencil whip you. I'm a math nerd. It's what I do. But at the end of the day, there's nowhere in Scripture God used debt to bless His people. It's not in there one time. As a matter of fact, there's not even one positive thing said about it. It's not a salvation issue. It's not a sin. It's not any of those things. Biblically speaking, it's just stupid. Never once did God, were the Israelites hemmed into the valley by the Amalekites, so they did a bond issue. You gotta know the Word. Study the Word. Because God will show you. Because He loves you. He's got a plan for you. The third one, first one is you got to do a budget. Second one is you got to get out of debt. Because if you don't have any payments, you got money. The third one is quality relationships. Now this is kind of weird. But think about it. Marriage is grand, divorce is 50 grand. Dysfunction in the family costs you money. Straight up. Crazy parents, drunk brothers. If you let them come into your boundaries and interfere in God's stewardship of your household, their dysfunction will cause you to be broke because you join in the dysfunction. And we all got it. Anybody doesn't have crazy in their family just hadn't been awake lately. Everybody's got crazy somewhere in the family. Some of it's behind a closet door, some of it's behind over the hill, some of it's around the corner at the still. You don't know where it is, but crazy is in your family. And I'm no exception. I'm from Hills, East Tennessee. When we do crazy, we do it big. So dysfunction and your personal dysfunction. We sadly get to work with the effects of all the dysfunction because we do financial counseling and coaching. And so we've worked for 25 years now with addicts. And I just got to tell you that if you're addicted to something, whatever it is, gambling, pornography, those are the two big ones right now. Huge, just unbelievably huge. And certainly the old standbys, drugs and alcohol and that kind of stuff. But people that are addicted, 100% of them are eventually broke. And people who stay with them are all 100% eventually broke until the addiction changes and Jesus heals it. That's an extreme example of quality relationships.
Thank you for watching our videos. Please like and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss another video.